It's Monday again, 6:30. Man, I'm so excited. Listen, y'all, we reached almost 10,000 people this last time post reached. People who watched it after I did it, which 7:30 is really early, so most people watch it afterwards. I'm so excited. Reaching it was 9,000 and something. So anyway, thank you so much for sharing, giving me a thumbs up. Obviously, I've struck a nerve. Today, we're looking at again living a life with no regrets. And I'd like to talk about just working too hard. Now, I know we live in a day and time where it's just over and over. We're being hammered. Crush the day, get up before the next guy, and go to bed after the next guy. You know, the early bird gets the worm. Just, again, I tell you, beloved, the early bird maybe gets the worm, but it's the early worm that gets eaten. So make sure you're the bird and not the worm. Just think about it for a second. How hard have you worked during your lifetime? Most of the people I'm connected to have worked really, really hard. They have got up early and they have gone to bed late. Are you rich? Has it made that big of a difference? I believe we should work. The Bible's very, very clear. If a man doesn't work, he shouldn't eat. God created us to work. Scripture says in Proverbs that a desire accomplished is sweet to the soul. When you work hard with your hands and you mow the lawn or weed eat or you build that thing or paint that room or whatever, you feel good. You accomplish something. You were created to work. And if we don't work, we shouldn't eat. And I believe you ought to work hard when you're getting paid to work. You shouldn't. Listen, I was at lunch the other day, and this guy was on one of those zero turn lawnmowers. And he had a patch that was small, maybe 30 yards long and 20 yards wide. It should have taken him longer to unload and load that mower than it did to mow that lawn. But instead, it took him at least 25, 30 minutes. While I was eating, I watched him. He unloaded that thing from the trailer. Then he started on his phone. And then he made one pass, got to the other end, got on his phone. Then he made another pass, got on his phone. And I realized somebody is paying this gentleman to mow this lawn. He's getting paid by the lawn. This guy's getting paid by the hour, so he doesn't care how long it takes. But the guy that's paying him is paying for the lawn, and he paid about 3 times as much as he should have paid that employee for the work that got done. So I do believe you ought to work hard when you're getting paid to work. But listen, beloved, working hard is one of the greatest regrets people have is they worked too hard. They didn't enjoy life. Every day was about work, work, work. And when they got home, they worked. And when they had days off, they worked. And when they had vacations, they worked during their vacations. And we're living in a age where people drink energy drinks to keep up with their own self imposed pace. I mean, we're going so fast. We have to have 5 and 6 and 8 cups of coffee a day and 2 energy drinks. And I was talking to a girl the other day. She was at church. She had an energy drink. She wasn't picking rocks. She wasn't baling hay. She was at church, but she needed her energy drink. She said so she could enjoy the service. I'm glad she stayed awake, but it just proves my point that we're going so fast. We need stuff to help us stay awake and to stay energized because we have to crush the day. We love this idea of multitasking. I'm going to do 2 things at the same time and accomplish twice as much. But beloved, all the statistics are coming back in bucket loads that's not actually working. we're getting less accomplished trying to do more. That because we did it halfway, because we had our mind here and our mind there, and we were divided, we had a division, we were divided in heart, we didn't accomplish either one very well. And then we had to go back and redo because we weren't really paying attention to the details, and we ended up having to do both things again. So it actually cost us more time to do the same thing. All of the statistics prove that you would do better to pick one thing, get that thing done, and then move on to the next thing. Beloved, multitasking is a great way of failing at two or three things at the same time. It is not the way to accomplish more. John 15, we've looked at it before. He cuts off branches so that those branches that are bearing fruit will bear more fruit. You produce more by actually doing less, by not being so multitasked, by not going so many different directions. My friends, we're going 1,000 directions an inch at a time, and we're going nowhere. We would be better off to go one direction 1,000 miles. And so this idea that people go to their grave and one of the greatest regrets they have is that they worked too hard. They didn't enjoy the life that was set before them. They didn't smell the roses. Now again, the scripture is very clear. You should work. God gave you 6 days to work. But on the 7th, we were to rest. But I'm looking at a group of people coming up, and my own generation, they're working so hard that any kind of time off, any vacation, any time where you're just meditating, contemplating, reflecting, anytime you're not busy, you are considered lazy. But resting, contemplating, meditating, reflection is not the same as not doing anything. You're doing something extremely valuable. I have put into my daily practice something that I read about 4 years ago now in a book called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. And they talked about the daily office, that our founding fathers took 3 to 5 times a day, and they would just stop what they were doing, and they would rest for 3 to 5 minutes, and they would think on the Lord, and they would recenter themselves, and they would remind themselves, excuse me, that God was in charge, and that God didn't need them. At best, beloved, you and I are a conduit. He is the power. At best, all we can do is keep the mud daubers out of the conduit. God doesn't need us, but he chooses to use us. That ought to be extremely freeing. And so I've taken the time, just depending on my schedule and who doesn't show up and who might be a few minutes late, I take a few minutes, and many times I just slow down my breathing. And I realize that even though I'm not running physically, my heart is beating as if I was running because I'm wound up. And it just is a beautiful thing, and it has changed my life. And it's not really that costly. 4 or 5 times a day, depending on the day, to just take 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes more, depending on how late people are, whatever, just to remind yourself the world is going around without you. You know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I've done well over 600 funerals. And when you do that many funerals, you realize when you die, somebody else is going to be in your seat on the bus very quickly. Within 3 days to 3 months, you're going to be replaced. And when you realize that, when you realize you have an expiration date and somebody's going to do your job when you're gone, you realize, I am not going to kill myself trying to do more than the next guy. I'm going to work hard when I should be working hard, but I'm going to rest when I should be resting. We'll look at next Monday enjoying life, because that's the flip side of working too hard. They didn't enjoy the life that God gave them. They didn't take the time to really engage in every moment. You know, I'm looking at some people I'm having to retrain that when I take them to lunch, I ask them to leave their phone in the office or in the truck. And first off, they go through withdrawals because it's become this addiction that they have. But I have found many of the people I'm trying to raise up now, many of the people I'm trying to pour into and help, do not know how to engage face to face. They don't know how to engage with you at the table. They don't know how to look you in the eyes. It's uncomfortable for them because they're so used to looking at a screen. They don't know how to have tough conversations because it's too easy to say tough things over their phone and send it versus looking that person in the eye and saying, you really hurt my heart and I want to talk this out. It takes some real social etiquette and guts to walk into your boss's office and say, I'm giving my 2-week notice. Because he might fire you on the spot. But you grow. Even if he does, no matter what happens, you grew because you faced the obstacle. And you grew in strength and character. And when people send a text to say, I quit, and people are actually leaving marriages over a text, we lose something valuable in the exchange. We don't know how to enjoy the life that we've been given. We can put our hand to the task. That's much easier than dealing with a disagreement between you and your spouse or you and your children. And we've relegated, I got to go to work, because it's easier to do that than it is to face what we're facing at home or to deal with the situation that's at hand. And I want to encourage you. 6 days you've been given to work. Work hard those 6 days. But when you're off, be off. When you're off, turn your phone off. Put it in another room. Many times I've forgot my phone at the house because I don't need it like other people need it. And when I'm speaking to my wife or talking to my wife or when we're out on a date, I leave my phone in the truck because I don't want to interrupt my wife and I's conversation. I want to be able to look her in the eye. And if I'd have wanted Jim Bob to be a part of that conversation, I'd have invited Jim Bob to the luncheon or to the supper. So don't go to your grave with the regret of working too hard. Live life in reverse. Enjoy your day off. Enjoy your weekends. Enjoy some vacation time. When you get home, spend some time with your children, laughing, playing, cooking burgers on the grill, throwing frisbees with them, just watching a movie with them even, cooking some popcorn. I love doing that with my grandkids. We'll watch The Chosen, and they'll come over, and we'll turn the lights off and get some popcorn made, and we'll sit in front of the TV, and we'll watch The Chosen and eat popcorn like we're at the movies. Much cheaper, by the way, to do it at home. Just spend some time with your loved ones because you don't have to go to your grave with those regrets. Live life in reverse, and you'll live a life without regrets. Looking forward to seeing you next Monday. Again, I'm so excited that we're so close to reaching 10,000 people, you and I together. Thank you for those who've gone to my leespeaks.com webpage. Thank you for the ones who have given and made it a routine to give. You know, again, I'm not a 501c3. If you give, it's like paying for a meal. But if you're being fed, pay for your meal. It's just that easy. If not, it's okay. I'll keep giving this out. I love you all so much. Thank you for giving me a thumbs up, for sharing with others. Let's see if we can't reach 10,000 this week. That would be awesome. Love y'all. Look forward to seeing you next week. Let me say goodbye to some faithful folks. Stuart, love you, my friend. Jim, miss you coming to the life group. Sure do. David, Jimmy Jeter, you're a good friend. I love you so much. Thank you. Lavelle, Bobby, you guys are awesome. Love you. Mary Lou, bless you all so much. See you next week.